that section, which I'm sure most of our viewers watching this right now would be waiting with anticipated breath because they are definitely waiting for us to scream Scam 92 and Patalo from the top of our voices. So let's get straight into our favorite shows of the year, starting with you, Mohar. Which are your top five?
So, yes, Camp Patalok, all of that. My favorite most show of the year is this show that came on Z5. It's actually a Zindagi original. It's a show called Chudails that's made by this guy called, he's a Pakistani filmmaker, by Asim Abbazi, who had made Cake, which was one of their I think it was their nomination, Academy Award nomination, if I'm not mistaken, Pakistan's official entry for the Oscars that year. So it's a story about these four women who come across like from different walks of life, rich women, like, you know, one is a convict, and they together start a detective agency, and help other women nab their husbands who are either cheating on them or abusing them. So I thought the not only is the premise very interesting, I think it's a very, very well made show that exposes how feminism, the way we upper class privileged women view it, is very different from what feminism um, would be for, say, someone who belongs to the rural background. I think the way it kind of cuts the whole concept of feminism across all classes, all, you know, every element of it is very beautifully fit together in the screenplay. Some editing problem here and there, but it's a very, very well made show. So that would be my top favorite. Then of course there's Scam. I think is a super hit across everyone this year. So there's no saying why and what. Scam is an absolute favorite. I really liked Asur, which is on Woot Select.
Yeah.
Now that's a platform I've really taken to recently. I think it's a very interesting platform and has great shows. I went after Asur, I actually went and discovered an entire plethora over there. So I really like Asur. It has Arshad and it has Barun Sopti. It's a nicely made show. There's also this amazing little series. I'll call it a series because Bijoy Nambiar wanted to make it as a film. Then he decided to make it as a series. I quite like Tash. I thought it's a well made show. He had a great concept in mind and he did his best with it. So I really like that one. And of course, I'll end it with Panchayat, which is an absolute hit across every generation because that's the one show that made people smile. Like it made my mother smile, and it was April. She really wanted to go back to her hometown, and she's like, "Why am I stuck in Bombay?" And that's the only show that kept her sane through that. So I give it to Panchayat for being the funniest, most happy show I've seen in a long time. So these are my favorites of the year.
Maya?
Well, I've had a tough time choosing between three top shows of the ones that I've watched. And again, I need to reiterate this: of the ones I've watched, there's just so much to watch. Like I haven't seen Chudail, and now that Mohar has recommended so highly, and she's been recommending it for a while now, I will catch Chudail. After I've finished watching Andekhi, which is what I'm watching right now. After I finished watching Pushpavali season 2, which is what I'm watching right now. After I finished watching Asur, I'm on I think on the 4th episode of Asur currently. And these three were thrown at me by a lot of people online once I said that my top three shows are, and in that order, Scam 1992, Patalok, and Panchayat. And while I'm putting it in that order, the fact is it's impossible to pick which is the best of the three because they all work for completely different reasons. They're completely different genres. If I want to do a cop out, I'd say all three as number one, purely because, and I so agree with Moore, what we needed was a show like Panchayat in the times we're going through. To an extent that I liked Bandish Bandits far more perhaps than I would have if I was any other time. Because for once, for God's sake, the worst thing that can happen in that show is somebody will have a heartbreak. Thank God. You know what I mean? Because for everything else that we were watching, there's so many deaths, so much destruction, so much darkness. And while you're already living in your house, sort of experiencing the darkness outside it in any case, I would have liked Patalo far more if I had not seen it during lockdown. Likewise, right? But there were just too many dark shows, I felt, one after the other. While I liked them, and there's no doubt about it, because it's not like shows only drop for that particular period of time. They stay on forever. So, and I'm presuming this video also will stay on forever. At some point, someone click on this. So in that case, I'd rather mention all the stuff that I enjoyed watching and that I'm currently enjoyed watching. Like I like Criminal Justice season 2. Dark Show works. Arya, Dark Show works, right? So these two, and of course the others, as I told you, I'm still finishing off. A lot of disappointments, of course, along the way. Several shows I thought I would absolutely end up, falling in love with for various reasons. Like A Suitable Boy, I thought would be such a charming show, which it really wasn't. Let's be fair. It was really dragging
It was
on.
very
It was too fake and all those things. So while it was a year, it was essentially a year of complete surprises. At the end of the year, Vijay Lakshmi, at midday, we try and do what we think is what people should watch in the following year. It's a list that we make. There's no in hell any of this stuff would have been on that list. And that's the beauty, isn't it? And that's really where we are with content that's reached OTT platforms. They only throw surprises one after the other. So I'm hoping to be surprised by Andekhi by the time I finish, because so far it's kick-ass.
There you go.
Right. Well, actually, taking from your top three only, I remember, telling you, Mayank, that I happened to read your tweet actually that you put out where you listed these top three, and you pretty much put it out there saying that you can't rate one above the other because, I mean, all three shows actually just about fall. So, but still, I mean, without being politically correct, I want to undoubtedly and unabashedly declare my love at number one for Patal Lok, because for me, it was sheer genius by Sudeep Sharma, the creator and the writers of the show. It's uncompromised storytelling where so much is packed within 9 episodes and not once deviating from what is the central plot. At the surface, it is an investigation, an ongoing investigation about, an attempted assassination. But as you dig in deeper, so many of the evils start coming out, and somewhere you have to thank yourself, thank your luck as a viewer that you're actually quite privileged, and you're cut off from all this. That none of this actually affects you, or none of this has ever come in your path. And it was an eye opener of a show, and what a performance by Jaideep Ahlawat. I mean, truly deserving of all the laurels. I'm really happy that he picked up the Best Actress Filmfare earlier last week. So absolutely, Patal Lok undoubtedly is my favorite show of the year. Followed by a close second, Scam 92. And I rightly agree with Mayank. First of all, Scam 92 is a kind of a show that really dropped on an unusual platform like Sony Live, which in comparison to a Netflix or an Amazon or a Hotstar does not really have a huge subscriber base or does not have a huge reach. I don't think so. They really marketed the show also that largely than the other shows on these platforms are marketed. And this is a kind of a show that strictly worked on the basis of word of mouth. Like every second status, every second tweet where we saw everyone was just going gung-ho about Scam 92, I think really worked in its favor. But again, having interviewed Pratik Gandhi 2 years back, I mean, we knew that there was a star in the making, and this was probably his breakout moment, and it's truly satisfying to watch all the love that's coming his way. Like barely 2 months, it's just about been 2 months since the show has landed, and people have just not stopped talking at all about it. At number 3, of course, Panchayat, because Mohan, like you rightly said, it came at a time when we were literally in the peak of the lockdown. It was really, and we really needed a lot of laughter at that time. And I think apart from Panchayat, the only other show that was possibly keeping us hooked was FOMO Short Sleeves, but I'm not including that in the list because it's just a harmless popcorn fest for me. Both FOMO Short Sleeves and Mirzapur. So for me, those are not like standout shows. I would say, I would look up to them as great pieces of content. They're just popcorn fest for me. At number 4 would be Asur, because again, a great marriage of mythology and very rarely something about forensic sciences has been really attempted in, somewhere closer to our home. We have never seen that really being explored or widely in films or in shows. So I think Asur was a great example of storytelling again. And my number 5 choice would be a rather unusual one. This is actually based on Mayank's observation 2 years back. Often we list shows based on the recency bias, something which stays at the top of our mind. But my first favorite show would be Jamtara, which came out last January. Like it was literally the first release of the year last year. I mean, the year gone by. And for me, it was the kind of a show where it smartly said a story about a group of boys who are involved in fishing, in a remote village in Bihar. But it's also an example of how you do not necessarily deploy violence or sex to tell a narrative. Unfortunately, what a lot of shows get wrong in their narratives is because digital allows you creative liberties. A lot of them tend to misuse it. So many times you feel like a sex scene or a scene of violence is unnecessarily forced fit into the narrative just to add shock value. But Jamtara pretty much kept the narrative going without necessarily deploying any of these. And for me, that's why it would be at number 5. Of course, I've not watched Special Ops. I want to watch that, and somehow I never had the opportunity to watch that. Bandish Bandit, to an extent, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole, the familial conflict. Though the love story kind of got to me actually. I couldn't watch it after a little after that, but yeah.
But in many ways, Bandish Bandits was actually one of the most original shows to come out of India in that sense, the Indian content landscape in that sense, because I couldn't have imagined that show out of what they were trying to make. Like, there's so much over there. There's familial conflict, there's a young love story, there's a confluence of very different sorts of music. I think I have to give it to them for their originality. They thought something out of the box for a change. I think that's very interesting.
I did like the soundtrack for sure. I thought, I mean, it was such a respite from so many of these unoriginal recreations that we have been plagued with now for over years. So it was such a respite to listen to the soundtrack of Bandish Bandit. So I'd agree with you on that. Since you mentioned Boot, I think we should give it to the Gone Game actually, because
the Gone Game, yes.
It was a thriller shot entirely during the lockdown with all the actors, shooting it within the confines of their homes. And I think it's just a 2-hour mini series of 4 episodes, and I was hooked onto it for sure.
Yeah.
So it would find a place in my honorable mentions, and of course the season 2 of Criminal Justice. Yes.
Yeah. Season 2 of Criminal Justice is very surprising.
Yes, ma'am.
Couple of things here. One, I totally again falling to the same trap as I claim that people do. Yes, there is a recency bias, and yes, it did slip my mind to mention The Forgotten Army for the time that it came out. Did not see that scale of operation, that really like an international show of that genre, which I don't think Indians, even with films, have attempted to that level of precision of both period and war. Both are extremely expensive genres to do, to merge the two and to tell a story, of course, some of which really well known, but the conflict, for instance, of who were Indian National Army. They were essentially British Army, Indians and British Army who were fighting other Indians and British Army. So Indians were actually fighting each other, which I thought was a lovely conflict brought out, which while we've known about INA, we don't really think of it in that sense. Of course, I didn't love the series only because there's been an overdose of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose on the screen. We've seen too many. We saw a film. Tigmanshu Dhulia made a movie on it. We saw Rajkumar Rao play Bose in a series. Altogether, and a few documentaries as well. But let's not forget The Forgotten Army. That's on Amazon Prime Video, if I'm not mistaken. Again, as an antidote to recency bias, Special Ops, thank God you mentioned. I thought as a thriller, it was trying to be a fun thriller. It was for once trying to be very Bollywood about it. It was for once trying to be or mainstream Hollywood about it, which is great because somehow it's sometimes fun to watch something knowing that this is just a movie. As against something that bogs you down because this is the world. And you know what? I have to live in this world even when this show stops. So there was a fun element to it. And I completely agree with Mohar on Bandish Bandits. The the love part was pretty flimsy, and maybe that's a genre that belongs to the audience that also enjoyed Mismatch, for instance. So not my
Like,
well, just too old for that scene, honestly
it's
speaking.
funny,
But
you know.
but that world was fascinating, and which is why all our discussions that we've had also on the best films of 2020 will remain incomplete until we watched The Disciple by Chaitanya Tamhane, which of course is a
Mhm.
Marathi film. So, but we've been discussing Hindi content largely here, but that's the first film in decades to win a prize in the top film festival in the world. First Indian film in decades. You know what I mean? So clearly there's something, and which is bigger than anything that's been created in India for the past 20 years at least. So we've got to watch what is it that's mesmerized the art house crowd globally in a real sense, not like some sidey screening or not some this is also played at Cannes. No, it was in competition at Venice, and it won the best screenplay at Venice. And I think the Presky Best Film Prize, and that is also set in the world of classical music in Bombay. And it is a fascinating world. It genuinely exists. That whole Guru Shishya Parampara thing is fascinating because it's true. And people who've lived that life have only the most horrible things to say and only the most amazing things to say at the same time. And that's what Bandish Bandits showed. It's of course a story about ego. And just to take off from there, because we've not discussed music, and these shows go on forever. Best background score has to be, of course, Scam 1992. Uh,
Absolutely.
that track that constantly plays. I think that was a song of the year coming from a series. I hear
Yeah.
it all over the place on Instagram. People playing it all the time. And best soundtrack, and of course that seemed a bit like Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal, if you saw some similarities. And best soundtrack would have to be A Suitable Boy. I think it's a fascinating, fabulous soundtrack. I've been tripping on it for the past a couple of months, so I think people who are watching this should at least give it a shot on Spotify or whatever it is that they use for their music streaming. But A Suitable Boy is a really good soundtrack, especially Kavita Seth's voice. There's Shujat Khan in it, whose father was Vilayat Khan. There is Anushka Shankar, whose father was Ravi Shankar. Ravi Shankar and Vilayat Khan were warring musicians of the times. Vilayat Khan was considered greater than Ravi Shankar. Ravi Shankar was considered greater than Vilayat Khan because the world watched him. He was popular in the West. And all of that coming together in this beautiful OST. I think people should give it a shot. So that's my thing for. I think we've pretty much covered from what I can remember. But having said that, I'm still watching. There's still a few days to go. I'm still watching a whole lot of stuff that I missed it for this year.
On the music bit, I think also we should remember Choked had a very interesting background music, and I remember
Yeah.
talking to the musician Karsh Kale. He is so good. Of course we know of him from the indie scene, but he rarely attempts anything mainstream, and it is a very intriguing background score, to say the least.
Yes.
I'm gonna check it out. I hope it's there on Spotify.
Yeah, it's there.
Also because Karsh had a very good, he did very good work with Gully Boy also with Petta the
Gully Boy.
the Karsh Kali, the audio collective, the Silent Audio Collective. So he was pretty much part of that. So he has been instrumental in lending background scores to a lot of mainstream projects, even though he's widely recognized in the indie circuit. So, since we've actually reflected upon the best performances, this year that we saw, and since Mohan Mayank, let's discuss the favorite performances that we enjoyed in shows this year. Let's start with Pratik Gandhi and Jaideep Alawat, if I'd make that easy for you folks.
Yeah, let's start there. I think that's a good place to start. Um, I still remember doing the casting news of Scam 1992, and when the publicist told me that this guy is playing, I'm like, who's he? They're like, he's a very famous theater actor. I said, Acha, they're casting theater actor. I was also very unsure because I never heard of this guy. And I went after watching Scam, and I went and I googled him up. I realized he had a supporting actor part in a film called Love Yatri, which had Ayush Sharma. I just, I feel Pratik deserves better than that. I wish we all had spotted it before. But yes, quite a standout performance. I think he's the heart of the show. And he also, kind of captures the natural swagger of Harshad Mehta so beautifully. So I think, yeah, that's a beautiful performance. And same with Jaideep, the whole idea of this man who's not getting what he should, and he just brings that angst and that frustration so well on screen. I think these are easily the best performances of the year, amongst others, of course.
Okay, I'm gonna go a slightly different route here for a variety of reasons. One is that I think the standout performances, especially in series, because most of them are centered on those lead actors, and you watch them over 10 hours, 8 hours, and of course Pratik Gandhi, and he is Harshad Mehta, and of course Jalil Palawat, and he is the lead in Patal Lok. And lead doesn't mean anymore a 1.5 hour film or 2 hour film where but a lead means like really like that's all you see in a large way. And that would be true for all the shows that we mentioned in any case, right? Whether it's a we've discussed Mirzapur, and how amazing was Pankaj Tripathi, but how amazing was the lead in Mirzapur would be why am I forgetting his name?
Ali Fazal.
Divyendo?
Would no not Debyendu, yes, the Debyendu, the show was essentially centered on Debyendu, right? Debyendu Sharma, if I'm not mistaken. And so you see, but I think for me this was the year of discovering what is called otherwise a junior artist or a side actor in our movies, purely because they generally become sidey as a result of their screen time, which is not the case anymore when a series is that long. And I was just spending most of my time just looking at that third person, that fifth person, that second person who shows up in the third episode and then comes back again in the sixth. And then in the sixth episode, there's a whole track. So we start following that particular character for much longer. It's something that only a series can do. And it's been the year, I think, of casting directors in series. I mean, they really picked some freaking guys, yeah. That fact that they were like, as Moha rightly mentioned, if Pratik Gandhi was in a film with Salman Khan's brother-in-law in it, that's because Salman Khan was putting in money to prop up his brother-in-law, right? That's how movie industry used to be. The fact that who is being propped up, and that person who's being propped up is the person who will be made into a star in a very fake sort of way, because that's the only movie I can watch in the theater on that Friday. So that's the Friday release. But that shit doesn't work anymore, or doesn't need to exist anymore. I can watch anything. I have a choice between 45 things that come out over 60 platforms, and I can watch Harshad Mehta's story with Pratik Gandhi if I've never heard of him. So long as the show works for me, I'm not going to the theater for him. But I don't need to go to the theater anymore, and that just changed the game altogether. So some of the people I spotted in my own way, and I googled them. What's the name of this person? I thought one was this girl called Ritasha Rathore.
Yeah.
She was a friend in Masaba Masaba. I thought she was brilliant. I thought she was fabulous. For the time she spent. Of course, Masaba is fabulous. And who doesn't love Neena Gupta? What's there not to love about her? But we see them all the time anyway, right? So another one I thought I was totally like struck by. And these are all faces I've not seen before, right? And then not to have seen a face before, and then to see them over an extended period of time, because the character also develops, unlike in the movies, unlike in shorty serials also. You actually give some weightage to that particular character, and thereafter you start discovering them as actors in the first place. So Lyra Dutt, who plays a young person in a news organization, who's sort of seeing Tarun Tejpal, the character that's based on Neeraj Kabi's, because the book it's from is the story of my assassins, which they did not credit in the series, which is really bad form. You can't take a whole material out there and then not say where it's from. That is one. Of course, everyone loved Pratik Gandhi, but I thought the brother was fabulous here. I mean, I genuinely felt the brother. Gentleman called Hemant Kher. Of course, in that show there were so many. Like the ensemble cast in that show was just killer. All of them. And I thought Rajat Kapoor was again like what a fantastic entry, what a fantastic exit, so to say. Of course, playing the CBI joint director, if I'm not mistaken, or the big shot in CBI leading the Harshad Mehta case. So there were quite a few of these. I thought in Panchayat, and of course we love Neena Gupta in Panchayat, and we love Raghuveer Yadav in Panchayat. And what is there not to say about Jitendra Kumar? I think again, what a year he's had here. From Shubh Mangal, Zyada Savdhan to a Panchayat, he literally carried the show on his shoulders. But I thought those two bumblers next to with him, the guy who played Prahlad, Faisal Malik, and the guy who played Vikas, Chandan Roy. Killer, yeah. I mean, how good were they, and how natural were they, and how much they were bringing to a show like that. I think with series like these, where everyone has a backstory, everyone has a strong role to play. A weak link here and there can really destroy a performance at large. The fact that it doesn't, we tend to not credit those. They don't even, they will not show up in supporting actor also, right? If you were to give out awards, there is no supporting actor here, because supporting actors would be Raghuveer and Neena Gupta. But that show does not work if those two bumblers don't work. And how good are they, right? I was totally in love with these two. And even in Mirzapur, I thought Isha Talwar, again, I'd not seen her before. Or maybe I would have seen her before in a movie, but she would be like a,
Article 15. Yeah.
exactly, right? So, but then now you see her developing a character, coming into her as an actor. At the same time, she's not the lead, and to a large extent, not even the supporting cast. In to be fair, right? If you're looking at Mirzapur 1 and 2 combined, so but she's fabulous. She brings so much to the table. So that was another actor I thought I was totally blown by. But by and large, what I discovered were the plethora of phenomenal talents. There have always been. We've just not had a chance to see them shine in the way that we do in series after series after series. I thought the guy in Arya, for instance, actually two guys in Arya. The guy who plays the cop in Arya, right? His name is Vikas Kumar, and the other person who plays the fellow who's the Sushmita Sen's brother, who's Ankur Bhatia. I mean, these two are phenomenal actors, yeah. And of course, they will not be considered leads in the real sense, although I think Ankur Bhatia kind of was, or even the cop was, but they're not going to get any awards. You know what I mean? It'll still be Sushmita Sen, and it will still be Jitendra Kumar, and of course there should be, and as should be Pratik and Jedi. But you know, I think these are in these like long form storytelling. They're not supporting cast anymore. I think they've merged with the main cast to make the story palatable to audiences. And I'm just amazed that there are so many great actors. Thank God that we can see them now.
Actually, rightly pointed out, Mayank, it's very unfair to just pick the leads in these shows as your favorites, because there are, like you rightly said, there's a plethora of talent. So many of casting directors have seen themselves play integral parts in these shows. And tipping off my hat over that, I have to say that Abhishek Banerjee in Patal Lok as Hathoda Tyagi, that was such an internalized performance, because, and he's also a casting director himself. I mean, to see the same guy play Ayushman's best friend in Bala, or Rajkumar Rao's best friend in Stree, play the despicable rapist in, I don't know how many people have seen his Marathi film Aji, where he is abhorrent in that film. I mean, such a huge range, and actually he started out as a very, very side, in a very, very small side character in Rang De Basanti way back in 2006. Now, because of Pata Lok, it's like everybody knows who Abhishek Banerjee is. So for me, he would be my favorite performance from Pata Lok. Of course, thank you for mentioning Rajat Kapoor in Scam 92, because everybody, I think after Pratik Gandhi, everybody places Rajat Kapoor's performance as a CBI officer in Scam 92 as the second best. But also we need to give it to Shreya Dhanwantri, who has fairly had any recognition. I mean, I think everybody remembers her as the lead heroine from White Heat India, or as the second in command from The Family Man, who is chasing criminals with Chari Bharti and Manoj Bajpayee's characters. But I think with Scam 92, she pretty much came into her own. So we must give her the due appreciation for that. I think in Mirzapur too, of course, I did mention Shweta Tripathi Sharma, but I was largely speaking about her journey in films and in shows this year. But I think for me, the performance that really stood out in Mirzapur too was Rasika Duggal. I think Veena Tripathi is such an unpredictable character. I cannot wait to see what that character does now in season 3, if at all it does happen. It's full kudos to Rasika Duggal. Like, when one sees her as a person, she's a very prim and proper, sweet woman that you could come across. And here in Mirzapur too, she's altogether a different person. So it's to her full credit. And I think in Bandit Bandits, for me, the performance that really stood out was Shiba Chadda, because right, like Mohar and I, we spoke about Tapsi Pannu saying so much in her silence. Bandish Bandit had Shiva Chadda say so many things in silence. She hardly, for a good half of the show, she hardly has any dialogues. And when the narrative starts, digging into her story, there's so many layers that come pulling out, and it's such a revelation to watch her on the show. And recently in Criminal Justice, I really enjoyed Anupriya Goenka's performance because uh, it's very difficult to. I do think so. We have seen many films or shows where a lawyer's character is shown as a person who does have an empathic gaze towards their clients, or we don't see them operate from a place of humanity. And I think it was quite a task for Anupriya Goenka to tap into that zone. And I think she was phenomenal with what she did. She delivered complete justice. So for me, these would be my favorite performances. And of course, Arshad Varsi Nasur, which is such a far cry from what he has done, from the kind of for the reputation that he's built with all the comedy films that he has done. We only know him as Circuit and Munna Bhai, or as Madhav in Golmaal, or as Adi Manav in the Dhamal series. But I think with Asur, he became, I think, after so many years of being in films, he finally came into an identity of his own in Asur. So, yeah, those would be my favorite performances this year from web shows.
I think between the two of you, you guys have covered most of it. But I want to just bring Kirti Kulhari here.
That's
it's
true.
very difficult to play a patient of depression, anxiety, and she plays a woman who has been systematically abused in her marriage by her husband, who easily I
Right.
think what Apoorv was trying to write is the character is a sociopath.
Yeah.
That's what is the character, and he gaslit
Yeah.
her over the years. So she is a victim of easily 10 years of violence and emotional violence, by which I mean, I think she got the little details very right. The parts where she's
Yeah.
just scratching her nails, she's just scratching her kurta. She's so unsure about putting, even trusting anybody, because she cannot trust people around her. She's been told that she's been cut off from everyone around her, so she cannot trust people. So I think she got those beautiful details out, and I think it's a very, very balanced performance. And because it's a character that suffers from mental health issues,
Yeah.
I think these performances are very important. They paint a very, very empathetic picture more than anything else.
Yeah.
I agree, Amar. We should certainly mention, while it should all be about people who would not mention otherwise, and therefore the whole list that I sort of read out to you. But we obviously have to mention the ones who were great, regardless of how what the length of the role was. And I think I felt in Kriti Kulhari's case with Criminal Justice season 2, I felt it was almost a lived-in trauma. It felt like she's been through this. You know what I mean? And it's not. I'm pretty sure it's not an easy space to live in order to play that part. I'm sure it would have taken a toll on her, and I'm pretty sure she would want to do 4 more shots, 3 right away.
Yeah.
Because and it also shows what an amazing year she's had. If that's the range we're talking about, really, it does not get wider than 4 more shots, please. Which, for all its frivolousness, the fact is, it's a show that we really needed to watch. It's like Fabulous Lives of Bollywood Wives. We really need something that is just entering our system without us having to think too hard about it. That is genuinely the purpose that entertainment is meant to serve. It is supposed to help our mind escape from the reality, which is rather harsh most of the times, right? I mean, if the idea is to replicate reality, then why go to the movies, right? I mean, we live it anyway. So I think they serve a very strong purpose, and I thought 4 more shots in that sense. It will remain underrated because that is not considered artistic excellence most times, but that's fine. That gets overcompensated for by the kind of love that they get from public at large. And I think it was the most watched show on Amazon Prime Video, at least by the time that it came out for the year. So I thought that was fabulous. And again, speaking of discoveries, sometimes I had not heard of a girl called Shreya Chaudhary until I watched Bandish Bandits, and there was something very easygoing about her presence. Like I could be her friend, you know what I mean? And that is really the part that she was playing. it did, that especially in a film that otherwise has really intense actors and who are phenomenal in what they do, like an Atul Kulkarni or like a Nasiruddin Shah, and to be that whiff of easiness, for lack of a better word, of being so easy going on screen. I thought she was, phenomenal. Again, largely because it was a discovery of sorts, wasn't it? And of course, this whole web platform situation has also given a new lease of life for say an actor like KK Menon, man. I mean, what he does in special ops, and we may forget because it was earlier in the year, just tells you how much we've missed out of KK Menon as an actor on cinema, which is all about stardom, and it was all about rewarding films that would only pack theaters. But the fact is, special ops would have been a very highly watched series by the same public that would have paid to watch something in a theater. I'm going to end with this guy who I loved, a person called Priyanshu Payuli. Okay. And it should, if and I have a feeling a film like Extraction, for instance, which was a Netflix original, made by Russo brothers, if I'm not mistaken, right? Produced by Russo brothers. It does not get bigger than this, because that's the first thing they did after Avengers, which is the most watched movie in the history of films. So clearly, Netflix would have pushed Extraction as a hardcore action film across their platform, and more people would have watched him as the lead in a certain way, lead opposite Christian Bale, no less, as the villain. And I thought he was brilliant as the villain, but I'm going to bring him up here because he makes a pretty decent walk-on part, although not the greatest part in terms of a character, but at least as him just being there. Because I was wondering where I've seen him, and I've seen him in Extraction, and of course, thereafter we saw him in Mirzapur 2 when he, ye bhi theek hai. What does he say? He keeps saying, "Acha, aisa bhi theek hai, ye bhi theek hai."
Yeah.
So he had that Takia Kalam, and that's what was going for him. But that's another actor we discovered who had a great year in terms of the visibility he would have got in 2020. Sorry, another one coming to my mind. So before we wrap, my favorites would be, I think, Swastika Mukherjee. Swastika Mukherjee, again, I'm pretty sure she's very well known in Bengal, but I thought, she was a bit of a discovery for me in Patalok, and it seemed like a lived-in experience again. It seemed like she was that wife. It seemed like she'd have to make a certain, change of mental makeup in a certain way to get into that part, which will not be an easy part for someone to walk in and walk out of. And of course, we saw her later in Dil Bechara as well. We saw a lot of Swastika Mukherjee, a new name I learned, a new Twitter handle I followed, and I'm going to follow her career from here on.
He already has another show, Black Widows, that has just landed this weekend through ZEE5. So I think that is also something that we must include in our watch list as we round up this year's roundtable. I think in the last couple of hours that we have spent, reflecting upon the shows and and the films of 2020, and I just realized, I mean, if it wasn't for talent and if it really wasn't for entertainment, how would we have survived this year?
You tell me. Seriously, you tell me.
We wouldn't have, honestly.
I don't know. The last time we had a pandemic was, if I'm not mistaken, around 1918.
1918, the Spanish flu, yeah.
That was a Spanish flu. I have no idea. There was most places did not even have electricity at the point. I have no idea what people did, sitting at home. But thank God for the screen. Thank God that we can even have this conversation. It's not like the pandemic is over. And thank God for writers and artists and performers and shows. Yeah, literally, they deserve an award for the existence alone.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I completely agree with you. I don't think we would have survived the year without the laughs and the stories and everyone who went out there and shot when we were sitting at home just watching TV. That's also something that happened. So yeah, kudos to everyone who went out to work, and kudos to the shows that were made. I think the best content has come out in 2020, and it's only going to get better from here.
Well, on that hopeful note, let's round up this roundtable. Thank you so much, Mohad Mayank, for joining me this afternoon. And you're looking at a very, very content-driven and content-rich 2021 at the movies. Happy New Year to the two of you, and see you soon in person, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Radio City.